Today, I'm going to really focus on some of the threats that are going on right now. I promise you this won't be a super long session just because I know it's hard just to watch a screen for hours on end. But I wanted to talk on some of the things that I see right now that people are really being attacked with and that I think are important that just people should be aware of. Right now, if you look this last week, Google put out some statistics, and currently there's over 18 million daily malware and phishing attacks going on, according to Google. And that's just in the past week. And it's crazy. Basically, what that's saying is criminals are coming unhinged. And it makes sense. I mean, right now, everybody's kind of in this limbo. They're not really sure what's going on. A lot of people are at home. A lot of people are working from home. And all these things are causing people to get a little confused and make mistakes. And criminals are really striking on that. There's a company called Barracuda that's out there. And Barracuda Labs, what they do is they monitor email and help try to protect people's email. And they just put out a new study that said in the past month, they've seen a 600% increase in phishing attacks. Those are crazy numbers when you're talking about the fact that phishing attacks are already in the hundreds of thousands a day. So if you're seeing a 600% increase on top of that, it's just astronomical what's going on. And because of that, I think people just need to be aware of some of the really key ones they're focusing on and some of the things that they're going after. And ultimately, it just comes down to the fact that criminals know they've got a captive audience. There's a lot of people on their computers right now that are home from work, that don't have a lot to do, that are probably, losing their minds because their kids are home from school. And so they're on those computers all day. The criminals are hoping to trip people up while they're on them. I figured I'd start with the IRS scams only because this seems to be a really hot topic right now. Obviously, there's a lot of conversations going on specifically around stimulus checks. Everybody's waiting for their stimulus checks, and criminals realize this is the perfect thing to strike on. If they can get a hold of you and somehow reach out to you, whether it's through phone or email or text message, pretending to be the IRS and trying to trip you up and get you to give up your personal information because you think you're talking to the IRS, well, that's what they're going to do. And so, for example, here's an email that's going around right now, and it looks kind of real. I mean, when you first get the email, it has the IRS logo in there. It says it's an important government stimulus payment update. So you go, okay, that sounds kind of important. And it says, hey, look, a recent review of your past IRS income statement indicates a potential issue with your government stimulus payment. Now, when somebody reads that, immediately they go, oh my gosh, like, I don't want a problem with my stimulus check right now. The last thing I need is that. And it's kind of ambiguous, meaning that you may have already gotten the check and there's a problem, or you haven't gotten it yet and there's a problem with you getting it. So they've worded it in a way to where it doesn't matter who receives this email, it could still impact them. Then it says, please take a moment to update your tax return transcript to ensure your payment will be resolved. Or your payment will not be revoked is what it is actually. And again, not being revoked is another key thing that they say by saying, hey, look, if you have the check, it might be taken away from you. And if you haven't got it, it might be revoked and you'll never get it. So when people receive this email, they're very quick to click on the link. Another thing that makes this thing feel a little bit more real is the fact that it does have your email or your home address in there. So it has your first name, your last name, and your home address. And oftentimes people feel like, oh, well, clearly they must know me because they've listed more than just my email address. They've got my first and last name and my home address. And the reality is, getting someone's home address nowadays, there's a billion mailing lists out there. You can hawk on the dark web and find a ton for free. I mean, literally you can buy a million for a couple dollars of these home addresses and stuff. So it's pretty easy pickings to get this stuff. And they'll put these little things in the emails to make them feel a little bit more real. So you get the email and you go, okay, so now somebody's to actually click on the link. It takes them over to a website, and the website feels pretty real. When you see their website, it actually looks like the IRS website. And the reason it looks so real is because all they do is take the actual IRS website and put it on their own site. Now, you may notice at the very top, and hopefully it's not covered up by all this stuff that's on our screen, but let me see if I move some stuff on my screen so it's hard for me to see. There we go. At the top, it'll have a URL that's actually kind of weird. It doesn't have irs.gov, which is what it should have. And if you pay attention to that, that'd be great. But a lot of times people don't. They just see this page and they immediately go, okay, I'm on the IRS website. I need to fill out the form. So they come over to the little form here. They click on, they start typing in their name. And then they go, okay, well, now it's asking for some really personal information. It's asking for your social security number. And that's the thing the criminal wants more than anything else. So if you type in your social security number, you're kind of cooked. At that point in time, they've got the one thing you'll never be able to undo. Because like if I steal your credit card information, you can contact the financial institution and say, hey, my credit card's been ripped off. Can you issue me a new one? And they go, yeah, no problem at all. When it comes to your social security number, there is no issue me a new one. I actually did research a long time ago on what it takes to get a social security number, and it's crazy. Literally, you have to have your identity stolen, have to resolve everything, have to then wait a year, and then see if it's stolen again before they'll even consider talking to you about reissuing you one. It's an absolute mess the way it works. So criminals know this, and they want your social security number so they can become you. So if you come to one of these forums, the first thing you should obviously do is make sure you're looking up there at the URL to see where did you really end up. Now, that said, it could still be too late, because just because you got to the website, right there alone could be a problem. So let's assume for a second that you go to the site, but you don't fill out the form. So you got the email, you click the link, you end up at the website, and here you are now. And then you get here and you go, oh, you know what? That looks a little bit suspicious up at the top. I'm going to go ahead and just close this thing and go back to my computer because I'm not going to fill any information out. So you feel like, hey, look, this is all good. I did the right thing. Only a few minutes later, you get one of these types of messages that come up on your screen that says, hey, everything on your file has been encrypted, or on your computer has been encrypted. You're hacked. And this at this point means that you have ransomware. And ransomware is basically, it's malicious software that ends up on your computer that will lock all of your files up. So let's say you have pictures, or you have Word docs, or anything at all that's important to you that's on your computer. This malware will go through your entire computer and just put an encryption on those files. They're still there, but you can't get into them anymore. And then, of course, they want you to pay a little ransom fee. And if you pay the fee, then it's all good. They'll release your files. And oftentimes they actually do. They'll make them so that they work again, and you can get your stuff back. Problem is, nobody wants to pay this ransom. Nobody wants to go through this headache, and it doesn't always guarantee you're going to get the stuff back. So in this type of a scenario, all I did was click on the link, went to the web page, did nothing more than just saw the web page, and malware ended up on my computer. And people go, how did that happen? And it happens all the time. It basically comes down to what are known as zero-day vulnerabilities. And these are vulnerabilities that are in your web browser. They're in third-party software that ends up working with your web browser. Adobe Flash is a great example of that. And oftentimes people go, oh, well, I have a Mac, so I'm okay. And that's just not the case. If you're running Safari, which generally is what's running on Mac, or Chrome, or Firefox, or any of them, they've all had vulnerabilities, major vulnerabilities that literally all you have to do is just browse to the website, and the malware can install on your computer, and you won't see it happen. You won't even know it happened at all until the damage is already done. So, I mean, it's one of those things where if you go, oh, what's this actually mean? It means if you receive an email claiming to be from the IRS, or claiming to be from a friend or a coworker or anybody else, and it has a link in that email, be really, really, really cautious about clicking on that link, because literally just clicking is all it takes, and the malware can install on your computer, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. Also, when you're talking about ransomware, ransomware is one of these things that once it's on your computer, there's not much you can do to undo it. A lot of times people go, oh, well, if I get ransomware, I'll just run antivirus and it'll clean it up. And that doesn't work that way. Antivirus could possibly find the malware that encrypted all your files, and it could remove that from your computer. However, it can't go in and undo all the damage that's been done. The only way you can do that is if you pay the fee. For that reason, it's really important that you're doing backups on your computer. If you're not doing backups on anything at all that's important to you, you're really going to miss out if something like this happens to your computer. So it doesn't cost much anymore. There's cloud-based solutions that offer it. There's computer parts you can buy. You can buy little hard drives and stick them into your computer to back up all of the stuff that's important to you. If you have important things on your computer and you're not backing them up, you're a time bomb. Malware spreads very fast, and it's one of these things that's really difficult to prevent over the long term. You're far better off having the backups and knowing that your stuff is safe in case something bad does happen. Another IRS scam that I'm seeing going around right now, this one has to do with attachments. And it's the same type of email, almost looks exactly the same. It's just a slight variation of the last one. It says, again, a recent review of your stuff says there's a potential issue with your stimulus payment. Please review the attached stimulus payment guidelines to confirm you qualify. So again, if someone gets this, they go, oh, well, I gotta hopefully qualify. So they click on the little attachment, they open it up, and they read the document. This is the document that actually is from the IRS. Now, this particular one would be modified and it'd be a little bit more malicious than what my IRS is going to send out, but the idea is still the same, and that is you double-click on an attachment, you open it up, and now you look at it. And when you're done, you go, okay, that was interesting. You close up your email, you feel you're all good, and you walk away. Again, your computer's sitting there. A few minutes later, another one of these things is going to pop up on your computer. Now, when you get this, of course, it means all that damage has already been done. And you go, okay, so why would that one happen? And it turns out that Adobe PDF files, that was what that particular file was, an Acrobat file, they have a lot of vulnerabilities. Adobe Acrobat has had vulnerabilities through the years at a crazy level. They average about 1 every 2 months right now, which means if you haven't kept up on the very latest patches, you could be vulnerable. Unfortunately, even if you do keep up on the very latest patches, again, there's these things called zero-day vulnerabilities, meaning there's no patch available. So if criminals have written malware to attack your computer and there's no patch available, just opening that attachment up is all it took. And on your computer, you don't see anything. You just saw that page open, you read the document, you closed it, and you thought everything was okay. When it comes to attachments, they're just extremely dangerous. There's no such thing as a safe attachment. In fact, I listed a couple here, PDFs, docs, PPPs. Any attachment that you receive in an email, it could be a picture, it could be a document from a loved one, anything at all can be malicious. There's just simply no such thing. So if you receive an email and it has an attachment, unless you're absolutely positive who sent you this attachment and you're absolutely positive that it's safe, you just can't open them anymore, especially right now where there's just so much malware spreading. It could even be something where it came from your best friend because their computer could have already been compromised. And one of the first things malware does when it compromises a computer is it goes into their contact list and it sends an email to every one of their friends saying, hey, check out this picture, or hey, check out this document, or whatever it happens to be. And it sends it out to all their friends in the hopes that their friends will go, oh, this came from my friend. Of course I'll open it. They open the attachment and now the malware's on their computer and it keeps spreading very, very quickly. So in this scenario, the simplest solution is simply don't open an attachment from anyone, even if it's from the government or anything else, that's unsolicited, meaning it just came to you, you didn't ask for it, you weren't expecting it, you don't know what it is. When in doubt, pick up the phone, call the sender, and try to figure out, what it is before you ever open that attachment up. There's other things that you can pay attention to on the email. Sometimes the criminal won't even send an attachment. They won't send a link. Instead, they just send an 800 phone number. They'll say, call us at the IRS because there's something wrong. And so people go, oh, wow, okay, well, it's an 800 number. That must be legitimate. So they dial the 800 number and they go, hey, I'm calling because I got this email. Apparently there's something wrong. And people, go, oh my gosh. Whoever's on the other side will pretend to be an IRS official. They'll sound very, very professional. They'll say, okay, what's your name? When did you receive the email? Sometimes there'll be a reference ID in the email. They'll ask you for the reference ID. They'll talk for you for a few minutes, and then they'll say, okay, to pull up your records, we're going to need to have your social security number, at which point, if you give them your social security number, you're cooked. Now they've got your name, now they've got your social security number, and again, that's all they need to begin doing identity theft. So just because it's an 800 number, 800 numbers don't mean anything anymore. It used to be like, hey, an 800 number meant it was a corporation or something. You can buy 800 numbers online. I buy them all the time. They cost just a few bucks, and now whenever somebody calls that 800 number, it just goes to my cell phone. I can answer it and pretend to be whoever I want to be. Don't trust these numbers when they come this way. Just if you receive an email and it has a phone number, stop. The better scenario to do is look up the IRS's phone numbers online, where you can actually find out, how do I reach the IRS? Those are the numbers you can trust. Don't trust anything that's in an email. Another one that's related to phone scams, there's some crazy stuff right now. For example, there's these fake IRS phone calls where the IRS will call you, and well, supposedly the IRS, and most often they prefer to leave a message. Now, sometimes they'll just talk to you the minute you answer the phone, but I don't know if you've ever noticed, sometimes have you ever had like your phone and all of a sudden you get a voicemail, but you've had your phone the whole time and it never actually rang. No one ever called you, but all of a sudden you have a voicemail. That's one of the major tricks that scammers will do, where they just basically want to bypass talking to you and they want you to call them. So then when you call them, they'll leave the voicemail and they'll say, hey, this is the IRS, there's a problem with your account, you're in a lot of trouble, you have back taxes, all this stuff, whatever it is, to try to scare you into calling them and telling them whatever they want to know. So if you call those numbers back, again, it's the same scam. They're going to ask for your social security number. Sometimes they'll ask for account numbers. To try to trick you, they'll oftentimes pretend to know you. So they'll say, oh, Bill Smith, your address is 555, 4th Street. They'll list your phone number back to you. Sometimes they'll even know your workplace. This is all stuff they can get through public information. They can go to LinkedIn and find out your workplace, your home address. They can get on Zaba search. There's all this stuff just publicly available. So just because they start rattling off a bunch of information about you, even things like they might know your mortgage information. Again, mortgage information is public information. Anybody can find out exactly what your mortgage payments are. It's not hard to do. So just because they have a lot of information that seems personal, if they ask for things like account numbers, social security numbers, or if they want you to suddenly pay stuff, they tell you, give me your credit card information, or they want you to wire money. Those are all really, really bad things. Basically, stop, hang up on them, only call people that you actually got the phone number from a legitimate source. Again, go to Google, look up what the real number is for the IRS, call that number, and say, hey, I got this crazy thing, what is this? Also, you might get a text message, and the text messages are the same kind of scam where they go, okay, this is the IRS, call us back, there's a problem. I mean, it's just so silly when you think about it, because the IRS is not texting you. They're not texting anybody. They're just not that, they're not that technical, I don't think. But B, that's just not how they roll. They actually have a very, very specific guidelines on what they do and don't do. And they state right on their site, the IRS doesn't initiate contact with taxpayers via email, text message, or social media. That's just point blank. They will never, ever initiate contact that way. So if you get an email, if you get a text message, or if you get somehow contacted through Facebook for some crazy reason, just ignore it. They're all scams. They're all bogus. None of them are going to be real. None of them you should trust. Most often, the IRS will only contact you by U.S. mail. So if you receive a letter in the mail, that might actually be real, and you may want to at least follow up on it. Do a little research still, but in those scenarios, that's probably where it's going to start. There's very rare cases where they will call you. Generally speaking, it's after you already have a case open with them where they're now responding back. In those situations, they should generally have some sort of a reference ID that's already been established, and they should be able to tell you what that reference ID is. Again, if somebody just calls you up and says, I'm the IRS, give me all sorts of personal information, simple answer is no, just no. Also, another one that you can do is pay attention when they ask for things. There are situations where you have to do payments. They're never going to ask for things like iTunes gift cards or prepaid debit cards or money orders or wire transfers. Those things don't happen. The IRS isn't the mob. So pretty major telltale sign. So if for some reason you're still on a call with somebody, you bought into everything else, if they start asking what gift cards you have available that you could pay with, that's another good time to maybe just start laughing and hang up. Here's a great link. I'll give you a couple seconds to look at this link. This is actually from the Treasury Department, or the IRS posted this. And this is talking about scams that are going on right now related to the IRS. So if you receive a call or an email or anything and you think, oh my gosh, I think this is real, go to this link right here, and they're probably going to be talking about whatever scams are related to the exact thing you just saw. So this is a really simple way to kind of cross-reference what you're receiving. I'll also make sure that this PowerPoint stuff's available at the end. If you want to get a copy of this, you don't want to start copying all the stuff down, email me and I'll get you a copy of everything. All right, so another one that's going on out there right now, let's see how we are on time. All right, we can do this, is fake COVID-19 communications. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of emails and text messages going around right now trying to give people updates on what's happening with coronavirus. And this is obviously a very popular topic. So what'll happen is you'll receive an email, and it's going to look like it came from a friend, coworker, maybe even the government agencies that's trying to convince you that they've got personal or really important information regarding COVID. And so the emails will look like this. This is a real one that came right off the internet. Dear sir, go through the attached document on safety measures regarding the spreading of coronavirus. This little measure can save you. And then there's a link. I mean, it's that basic and that simple. So somebody receives this email and they go, oh, okay, maybe this is real. Oftentimes it'll be on behalf of a hospital or on behalf of a government agency, CDC, something like that. So it looks real. And it's just got a simple link. And oftentimes it'll have messages like, .pdf, as though it's going to be a document. If you click on that link, you're going to be installing malware in your computer. There's no doubt about it. Another one is this one here. As you know, the Department of Health and Human Services has declared coronavirus a public health emergency. Again, it's more stuff, and at the bottom you see there's a link there, and this particular link says it's going to the CDC. Now, if you're not aware of this, which hopefully you are by now, if you just take your mouse and hover over something like a link on an email, it will tell you where it's really going. Because oftentimes it'll say one thing, it'll say, look, this one's going to CDC, but when you hover your mouse over it, it'll actually be taking you somewhere completely different. In this case, it's taking me to somemaliciouswebsite.com, which I imagine would not be as good as going to the CDC's website. So hover over it. If they don't match, obviously that's a red flag. Even if they do match, make sure you really know where that domain is going. Sometimes the domains will be really, really long, and it'll get kind of confusing on where the actual place you're going to end up. And it might say like irs.something with all this stuff. And you go, okay, well, it said IRS, or it says CDC, or it says some legitimate thing. Maybe it's okay. And it doesn't work that way. It's generally the stuff at the very end. When you look at the URL just before / right here, it says cdc.gov. That is the only part you care about, is that last little bit. All the stuff before is completely irrelevant, and it's just stuff that's made up to try to make it look real. All right, so another one that'll happen is it might come from a coworker or your boss, because a lot of people are working from home right now. So the email says something like, hey, due to the coronavirus outbreak, and then it'll have whatever company name in there, is actively taking safety precautions. Here's our policy. Everybody needs to read this policy. And the hope is, of course, because you're working from home, when you get an email from your boss or somebody that looks like your boss, you're going to click on the link. Again, you need to be really cautious about all of these things. And when I talk to people and go, okay, why did you fall victim? And a lot of people call me after they've already been scammed, they have malware on their computer, and they're kind of freaked out. And we start walking through, I try to get them fixed up. But after it's all over, I go, what happened? And in almost every case, they go, well, the website, the URL, www.whatever, looked real. And I go, okay, well, what does that mean? And they go, well, it had like COVID right in the thing. So it'd be like covidsafety.com. And I go, okay, well, that would make sense that you would think that looks real because you see the word COVID in there. It says safety. Maybe that somehow is legitimate. So I did a quick check. And right now, there is currently a little over 58,000 domain names that have been purchased in the last few months that have the word COVID in the domain name. So www.whatever with the word COVID in that whatever.com have been purchased. 58,000 of those. Now, I will bet at least 50 of those are probably legitimate, and the rest are criminals who have realized, or scammers in some way that have realized, hey, if I put COVID into the name, people are going to believe it's real. So I'm going to put COVID into every domain I purchase, so that way when people receive it in an email, they're more apt to click on it. If you receive an email and it has, www.something with COVID in the name, that does not mean it's legitimate. And again, be very suspicious. Another one is coronavirus. There's over 25,000 domain names right now that have the word coronavirus in the domain name. So again, www.coronavirusinfo.com or something like that. All of those are being bought up. The vast majority are being used for scams. Criminals will also promote these not just through email, but through social media. They'll do it through Google Ads and text messages. So they'll literally go online and post an ad. So now when you're browsing around, you see the ads on the side of sites. Those ads can be purchased by anybody. So they'll put an ad that'll say like, oh, Corona information, COVID information, click here for more details. And then they'll have a little URL, www.somethingtodowithcovid.com. And because it's over on that side of a legitimate website page, people will click on that ad. Understand that ads are not part of whatever website you're at. They hire third parties to put these ads on there. And what they do is they get a piece of the action. So I have my website. I hire this third-party company. They now place ads on my website. And if you click on those ads, I make a little bit of money. They have no idea what those ads are. And oftentimes the third-party websites also don't know what's going on. Just today, a great article came out that was talking about, I don't remember the number now, it was like 30 or 40 different advertising agencies in the last couple of months have had breaches where criminals had broken in and were posting malicious ads through their companies, and they didn't even know the ads were out there. So it's a really common tactic. be really careful about ads because it's a big deal. Also, social media, if a criminal hacks into your friend's Facebook account, now they'll post one of these things saying, oh my gosh, check out this information on COVID. I just read it, it's really scary. So they post it to Facebook, and now all their friends see it, and they're all clicking on it because, hey, my friend posted this, it must be something real. Be really cautious about clicking on anything, even in social media, because it can also lead to really dangerous and malicious software. The other big things that criminals have been doing is they're making mobile apps. So, you have apps for your phone. So you can put these apps on your phone, and oftentimes they're really useful, a lot of great things you can do with them. Criminals have realized, well, heck, if I make stuff that has to do with coronavirus, and put it out there and say like, oh, I'm gonna get details and information, people will download these apps. Now, both Apple and Google have put a ban on these. Up until a few weeks ago, there was a ton. I mean, literally just an unlimited number. Now you're not supposed to be able to put them up there anymore. But every single day, criminals put them up there knowing they're going to get taken down, but it's a cat and mouse. They put it up, it lasts for hours to a couple days, during which time people will download it, 1,000 times, 100,000 times. And these are all people who's now had their phones compromised. Be really cautious about these things. The only people that are supposed to be putting these, anything to do with COVID online right now for an app, are supposed to be government agencies. They're the only people that are allowed to do this. Everybody else is not supposed to. So if you're trying to get an app that gives you updates, make sure it's from a legitimate source before you put those on your phone. What can you do, as I just said? Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're not opening any attachments. And again, links. Be so cautious about these links. If you have a link that you want to go to, let's say that you saw that your email was talking about the CDC. Rather than just clicking on the email, just go on yourself, www.cdc.gov or .com, and go to their website manually by typing it in, rather than following the link or clicking on the link in the email. You'll be far better off, and you'll still be able to find all the same information. All right, so everybody's gotten into Zoom. There's been a lot of media talk about Zoom and pros and cons. But right now, if you're stuck at home and you're bored out of your mind, you might be doing Zoom happy hours. And that's basically where you have an excuse to get drunk in the middle of the afternoon with your friends, or you'll be just trying to talk to loved ones because everybody's separated, nobody can see each other. So Zoom has a lot of really cool features that it can do. There's also been a lot of talk about the security risks with Zoom. Most of those things had to do with the fact that people were either setting it up improperly, they didn't know what they were doing when they were setting it up, they didn't put the security that they're supposed to do. The company's actually addressed a lot of this now. So for the most part, if you're using Zoom from that standpoint, you're going to be fine. However, criminals have also realized that they can use Zoom to attack people. So what they're doing is they'll hack into one person's computer and get their contact list of all of their friends and all their email addresses. And then they'll send an email out to all of their friends saying, hey, I want to invite you to a Zoom, party. I want to invite you to a Zoom happy hour or whatever. I just want to talk to you on Zoom. And they send an email that looks just like an email that came from Zoom. In fact, it'll even say that it came from Zoom. So everything about it seems very, very real. And they want you to go to join them at a certain time. So an email will look just like this. Now, this one in particular looks like it came from a coworker that I work with. So I received this email, and as far as I'm concerned, this is real, and there's nothing about it that would lead me to believe that it wasn't real. However, if I click on the link, instead of it going to Zoom like it says it's going to, it takes me to fakezoomsite.com. And that site, of course, is going to be much worse. Now, obviously, it wouldn't say fake Zoom. It might say like Zoom meeting or Zoom fun or Zoom happy hour or something like that. So people think, oh, okay, this is real and it feels right. But in reality, it's a malicious website. So when you get to the site, it'll have a lot of problems. Now, I went and did a quick check just on the word Zoom. And right now there's over 37,000 domain names. So www.something with the word Zoom in it. So again, zoomhappyhour.com or something like that. Now again, some of these Zoom sites might be something legitimate, they might be real. Vast majority of them are going to be malicious sites, and criminals are buying these up because they know that they can send these emails out and they look slightly real, and people will click on those domain names, go to the websites, and that's where they'll be scammed. So now I go to the website, and once I'm there, it says, oh, okay, you want to join the meeting? I click the little join the meeting, and it says, oh, you need to install our latest update. So people go, okay, they install the latest update, and in reality, they're installing malware on the computer. They're not installing an update of any kind. And obviously that's bad, but it still feels very, very real because everything about the site will look just like the real Zoom website, everything about it. So the best advice I have for you on this one, it's pretty simple. If you receive an email and it says, hey, this is a Zoom meeting. Now, I've only been talking about Zoom. This could be GoToMeeting. This could be WebEx. There's a million of these different ones out there, but you can follow the same procedure for any of them. And that is, if you receive an email and it comes from somebody and they say, hey, I want to have a meeting with you, rather than clicking the link in the email, instead, just go to the URL of the real site. And again, look them up. In this case, Zoom would be zoom.us. GoToMeeting is gotomeeting.com. WebEx is webex.com. You can look these up online. Go to their real website. Don't click the link. And then once you're there, look back at the email. So here I just got the site. I say, okay, you know what? I want to join the meeting. So I click the little join meeting because I know I'm truly at zoom.us. Click join meeting, and it says, okay, what's the meeting ID number? Well, if I go back and look at the email that was sent to me, I'm going to see the meeting ID numbers right here. And it says 9673814, blah, blah, blah. So I go, okay, great. I now know the meeting ID. I can just copy that, paste it in, hit join, and now I'm going to be in the meeting. I never click the link. I don't have that risk. I know I'm at the legitimate site because I looked at the domain name ahead of time, and it eliminates any problem. So if you receive an invite for a Zoom meeting or any of these other ones, and it comes from a friend or something like that, and you haven't had a conversation with them ahead of time, maybe you just talked to them 5 minutes ago and they said, I'm sending you an invite. Okay, that's probably going to be just fine. On the other hand, if you just got an invite through email and now suddenly you're trying to get there because you want to hook up with them, be really cautious. Don't click the link. Instead, follow it this way, and you're going to be in much better shape. So again, everything I just said is right there. Also, if you have the option, use a mobile device or a tablet or Chromebook. Those are all way more secure. Night and day more secure than using your PC. Not even in the same stratosphere. So the security is just better all the way around. Not saying there won't be a risk, not saying you can't be hacked, but I hear my dogs. But I'm just saying that there's a lot more risk on a desktop PC or a laptop than on any of these other mobile devices. All right, so fake e-commerce websites. This one, they've always been around, but right now, because people are struggling to find certain items, it's become a really hot thing for scammers. And this would be things like toilet paper, cleaning wipes, hand sanitizer. I mean, these things right now are more valuable than cars. It's crazy. I mean, I guess literally, because who's driving right now, right? So criminals have realized this, and they are starting to make websites that are selling these items specifically to rip people off. And then they'll advertise them through social media. They'll advertise them through emails. They'll send you an email that says, like, here's an ad, and it has, stuff like, get great deals right now on paper towels or whatever these happen to be. And people are like, okay, I need paper towels, or okay, I need these things. So they're more apt to click on these links. And again, if they do, they're going to go out and they're going to go and find a problem. So on this one, I went, okay, I want to get hand sanitizer. Type in hand sanitizer, and I'm just at Google, just a simple one. And it comes up, and the first thing it has at the top is an ad. It says bulk hand sanitizer, same day rush. And I go, okay, I want that. So I click on the little link right there, takes me over to a website, and I go, okay, great, look at this. I can get hand sanitizer, fantastic. So I can make my purchase, and it's going to ask me for my credit card information, of course, and I fill it all out. And it says, great, your order is being shipped. It'll be there in the next 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever. In some cases, I'll get an email a day later saying, hey, we apologize, there's been a delay. It's going to take another day or two. The reason for those delays is because all this time, the minute you put that credit card number in, they're using it. So they're going to go out and they're going to start ripping you off as much as possible. And if it's still working in a day or two, they want to keep you on the hook. So they don't want you to get suspicious. So what they'll do is they'll send you a follow-up email saying, hey, your order's being shipped due to, the extreme volume. It's going to take another day or two. And the hope is that you're not going to figure this out. And then by about 4 or 5 days in, your car's been so, run up, it doesn't matter anymore. By then, you probably already found out how much damage they've done to it, and they've moved on to somebody else. And of course, you never got anything. So one of the things you can do here is what's known as a website reputation checker. So if you notice, the site that I ended up at was called visits.com. Now, it just so happens I own that particular domain name, so I know it's not bad, but it could have been if I was a criminal posting that ad. So I come over here, and there's a company called urlvoid.com. I like this company a lot. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I use them because they're free and they do a good job. And basically what I can do is I can come in here and I can type in urlvoid.com, hit scam website, and it'll go ahead and bring this up for me, and it'll show me information about the website. So in this particular one, the things that I care about the most is I see where it's located. The server's in the United States. Okay, that's a better sign. If the server's in Russia, Czech Republic, China, basically anywhere outside of the United States, immediately be a little more hesitant because you're wondering, okay, why is the server running in another country? Now, it could still be legitimate. There is cases where it could be, but most of the time, that's your first red flag that something's really weird. The next thing you want to pay attention to is how old is the website? So in this case, this domain was 3 years old. That's generally good. What you're concerned about is when it says 3 weeks old or 2 weeks old or even a month or two old, because what will happen is criminals will buy a domain, they'll use it, so now they'll buy physics.com. They'll start scamming people as quick as possible. They don't want to wait 3 years to be able to scam you, so they'll wait, a day or two from the time they get it set up, start scamming people, and by the time 3 weeks comes around or 4 weeks comes around, everybody knows, everybody's on to them that this is a scam and their site's been shut down. So domain names for criminals are very short-lived. So if you see something several years old, again, you can generally feel a little bit better about it. On the other hand, if it's just a few weeks old or even a few months old, another huge red flag. Be really cautious about providing any information or even going to the link. The last thing you're looking at is this blacklist status. And that tells you, do other places think this domain is bad? The longer it's been around, the more relevant this is. If a website's only been around for a couple weeks, well, then in that case, there might not be enough information yet for there to be real status out there. So again, your tell is that it's been around too short. On the other hand, if it's been around 3 years and there's 0 out of 35, that's a pretty good indication that the website's going to be okay. Not 100%, but by this point, you've done a lot of due diligence, and you can actually even look to see all the companies that have done research, and there's a whole ton of them out there that provide information that say, okay, we believe right now this domain is okay. And if you go through all of that, you can generally feel pretty good that the site is legitimate. So again, this place is called urlvoid.com. Really, really easy to use. So before you go to a website, whether you see it in an ad or anywhere else, just do a quick check on their domain name and see, is it legitimate? So www.whoevertheyare.com and see what it has to say. And if it says they're okay, then great. Other than that, be really cautious about ads. And again, the ads that we're talking about here in this particular case are those Google ads. And people oftentimes think, oh, well, it's Google. I did a Google search, and the very first thing that came up was something that Google showed me, so it must be legitimate. And that just couldn't be farther from the truth. Anything that has a little ad at the top tells you it's an ad. Anybody can place an ad. And criminals do it all the time. They take a stolen credit card, they'll place an ad, it'll look very legitimate, and it'll only be up for a few days because eventually Google will find out and they'll take the ad offline. As long as it's up, though, they're ripping people off. And that's all they're going for, is just as many people as they can get in the amount of time that they have. So be really cautious about those ads. Just because it's coming from Google or anywhere doesn't mean it's legitimate. Same with social media posts. There's been a ton of times where there'll be ads that'll come up on social media that turn out to be complete and total scams. So be really cautious about those. The unknown websites, if it's not Amazon, if it's not Sears, if it's not big, Walmart, Target, big name companies, do your research before you go to those websites, and do even more research before you start providing credit card information or any kind of personal information, because there's just so many scams out there and it's so easy. Anybody can set up a website for free, and it literally takes like 10 minutes from beginning to end to make a website that looks real. So this isn't rocket science. It's not where they've done a lot of work. It's pretty easy stuff. Also, the one other thing that I didn't point out, but I think is really, really important to look at, is at the top of your website, in this case, it's the physics.com. So when you go to the site, pay attention to where that little lock is right there. Oftentimes, people have an idea in their mind that when they see the lock, that means the site is a legitimate website. A few years ago, that was true. Not anymore. Now, every website can get that lock for about $7. So it lasts for 1 year. You pay $7. It's all done online, and then they send it to you. Because now all that lock means anymore is that the website you're visiting is encrypted, meaning the traffic that's passing between you and that site can't be monitored by another criminal. It doesn't tell you that the website itself isn't criminal, and that's the problem. So Years ago, it used to actually mean something. We used to tell people, look for the lock. If the lock is there, you can feel pretty good about it. Now, the lock means absolutely nothing. So just because you see it, just because that's HTTPS, it means nothing anymore. That does not mean it's secure. You still have to do all the other research because anybody can get that little lock now without even trying. All right, one more for you here. How about fake healthcare updates? This one's taken off primarily because of COVID. And it's one of those things where it's not directly related in some cases, but they're still using it a lot. And basically what it'll be is you're going to receive a phone call from the doctor's office. You can also receive it via email or text message, but the phone calls seem to be the most popular right now. And they're going to call up pretending to be from either an insurance provider or your doctor's office. And they're going to know your name, they're going to know your address. In some cases, they're even going to know medical information about you, possibly who your current healthcare provider is, the insurance, something like that. And you go, well, how would they know that? Well, it's because there's been a lot of breaches in the healthcare space. And what happens is when these breaches take place, criminals take all this information and they throw it out on the dark web and put it up for sale. And at first it sells for a lot of money. And then over time, the information gets regurgitated again and again and again. And pretty soon you can get all this stuff for free. And the stuff you're going to have is stuff like the person's name, their home address, phone number, and oftentimes specific information about who they use for insurance and stuff like that. So if you get a call, just because they know who your insurance provider is or because they know who your doctor is or things like that, that does not mean that they are legitimate. And that doesn't mean you should now just start giving them all sorts of personal information. And the latest scam, of course, is that they're calling to tell you that you need to take a COVID test, either for antibodies to find out if you've had it. And this doctor's office is now providing these tests free of charge. However, they're going to need your insurance information. They're going to want account information, social security number, stuff like that to be able to process it through. The minute they ask for any confidential information, just tell them no. It's such a huge red flag. Instead, hang up, call your own doctor's office and say, hey, I got this call. What is it? If it's legitimate, your doctor's office is going to be able to help you out and put you in the right direction. If it's not legitimate, they're going to be able to say, yeah, don't follow up with that and you're all good. Anybody who's calling you and wants you to give them personal information, or anybody that leaves a message for you and wants you to give them personal information about anything to do with healthcare, stop. Be really, really suspicious. Now, it's one thing if you went and had an appointment, you had a test, and a few days later, the doctor calls with the results from your test. Okay, well, that's probably legitimate. But in those cases, they're not going to ask for your social security number, and they're just going to be talking to you about what those results are. Other than that, no one's just calling you out of the blue and asking for personal information. Another thing that they're doing is there's a lot of ads right now for cures. If you don't know yet, there is no cure at this point for COVID. There's no silver bullet. There's nothing that you can buy that's going to be making you better immediately. And just in my neck of the woods, I live in San Diego, and there was a doctor just arrested about a week or two ago because he was literally selling a cure for COVID. I'm not making this up. It costs $4,000, and you could buy this cure from him. And in a shocking turn of events, it didn't turn out that it actually was a cure. I guess they said it was like vitamin C and some other stuff. But there's a lot of these scams going on. And while everybody really wants to have a cure and everybody really wants to have something that's going to protect them, there's nothing. So if you see an ad, and even if it's, again, on a legitimate website, you could be at like WebMD or some real website, and then there's ads posted on that site. And so you go, oh, well, clearly these ads must be real because they're on a site that's related to some sort of medicine. No, anybody can make these ads up. Anybody can post ads. So just because it says it can solve something and it's on a legitimate site doesn't mean it's real. Don't fall for any of these scams at all. Just be really, really cautious about this stuff. And in some cases, they're going to want your credit card information. Some cases, they just want you to click the link so they can put malware on your computer. There's a lot of different ways they're doing these scams. Avoid them all, just as best you can. Stay away. Another thing that criminals will do is they'll call up and they'll tell you that you owe them money for past treatments. And this one's one of those ones where generally they're going after seniors for this. And when I talk about going after seniors, I mean literally there's mailing lists specifically designed for seniors. And again, if you go on the dark web, you can look up mailing lists for seniors. And when I say look up, so the dark web's not like the internet where you can just go to Google and do a search. You have to go to specific sites on the dark web. But once you're on those sites, they're set up almost like Amazon, where you can search for whatever you want to buy. Hey, I want to buy some sort of crazy weapon. No problem at all. You search and you can find those things. Well, same thing with this. I want to buy a mailing list for seniors, and it'll give you, a mailing list that has names, addresses, oftentimes job information if they've had any kind of work things they're doing recently. It'll also, of course, list out some medical stuff if they've got it. It's just a lot of personal information, obviously their email address. So now criminals will take this and they'll start calling these seniors, and they'll pretend to be calling from the insurance company or something, and they'll say, hey, look, you have a past due bill for a treatment. And oftentimes they'll be very vague on the treatment. They'll say, you had a treatment in the last, 6 months. Well, if you're a senior, there's a very good chance that you've at least talked to a doctor about something. Maybe you had a pill or something. So they know that their odds are with them. It's kind of like the people that pretend to be psychics, who just throw out really random stuff that's at least, hey, I'm getting the letter D. Did you know somebody whose name started with D? It's the same thing they're doing with this. I feel like you probably had some sort of a treatment, and so people will go, well, yeah, I had a treatment, right? Yeah, I did this. And then people will start volunteering information up, and the criminals will get them to give up more information. The trick here is just don't give up any information. If somebody calls you and they claim that you owe them money, write everything down that they say, ask them for a phone number, ask them for the company that they work for, get them to provide as much information as possible, and then tell them you'll be happy to call them back once you've done some research. And at that point, contact whoever you've actually done business with, is it the hospital, is it your doctors, whoever, and say, hey, I've got a call coming in, they're claiming this, here's who they say they're with, blah, 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 and do your own research on them. Another thing you can do is simply take the phone number that they give you and type it into a Google search. Just type that right into the search bar, and oftentimes that phone number will be associated back to all sorts of scammers. And it'll say like, scam, warning, don't call this number. And so you can find out a lot just from a phone number. So if somebody calls you and they're trying to get you to pay money, stop. Don't ever give them any personal information. Don't tell them anything that you've done. Don't give them any medical stuff that's happened, nothing. Just let them talk, take a bunch of notes, and then tell them you'll call them back once you get more information on your side. As I just said, everything I just said there is exactly what you should be doing. Here's some great links. These are all specifically tied to coronavirus updates. And they're talking specifically about scams and warnings. And there's a lot of them going on. Like I said, I've barely scratched the surface during this webinar because there's so much stuff that's taking place right now. So coronavirus.gov, obviously a lot of good information there. The CDC is another really, really good one. If you want to know about scams and those types of things, the FBI and Justice, they've literally set up web pages specifically on coronavirus because there's that many scams taking place right now. So if you have any questions at all, this is really, really good information. These are really good sites that you should visit. All right, so I've been rambling on now for about an hour. In the end, the best advice I can give, and I know I kind of repeated this tonight a lot, but it's so important. Avoid clicking links. I can't stress this enough. And in a minute, I'm going to give you some links that you can actually go to have some really useful information. Avoid clicking links just that come in emails that you don't know. Avoid clicking links if you're browsing on the web. You just don't know where you're going. You just click some random thing. It's so easy for criminals to put malware on your computer. Also, I didn't talk about it today, but keeping up with updates and patches. If you're using something like Chrome, it'll auto patch, so you're in pretty good shape. Safari, Firefox is pretty good about it as well. Edge is now doing it as well. But some of the third-party products that you can install, things like Adobe Flash, those things don't auto-update oftentimes, and that's where it can put you at risk. So make sure all of your computers being kept up to date with patches and things like that as well. If you're not sure how to do that, contact loved ones, friends, family. They could probably help you. Avoid opening attachments. Really be cautious about this one because attachments are the easiest way for malware to spread. Attachments by far are the thing that will put malware on your computer the quickest. So if you get an attachment, unless you absolutely know who sent it and you were expecting this exact thing, just don't open it. Avoid giving personal information over the phone, anything at all until you've done your research and you know exactly who you're talking to and you know they're legitimate. Don't send personal information in emails ever. And I mean, that's ever. Your social security number, account numbers, things like that should never be sent in an email. And if somebody ever asks you to send it in an email, either they're a criminal or they're crazy. And no one should ask for that kind of personal information in email ever. When in doubt, just stop, do a little more research so that you know for sure what you're getting involved with. And, if you really don't know, and if you have nobody else to turn to, you literally, you can't call a friend, you just have nobody, again, email me. I'll try to help you out as best I can, because nobody should be going at this alone right now. So here's some places I think you should go. The first one, I have a YouTube channel. I literally just post security risks, things like that I'm concerned about. Some of them are technical. A lot of them are not technical. All the stuff I do for the different news media outlets, I post onto here. So if you just want to stay up to date, just go over to youtube.com/user/Jim Stickley and just subscribe. It'll send you a notice every time I posted something new. It's good information. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I accept everybody who connects with me. Again, I post all this stuff to LinkedIn as well, trying to keep people informed on what's going on out there. A perfect example, I just posted this thing today on LinkedIn, a really important one. If you have an iPhone, there's a new vulnerability happening right now with no patch available through email. And literally a criminal can send you a malicious email. You don't even have to open the email, and the malware can jack your phone. It's really crazy. You can read about it either on the bottom link right there, SOS Daily News. It's the top news article right now on our site. You can go there and find out about that particular story, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see it there. Again, I just try to give as many ways as possible to get this information out to people. My email right now is on that bottom right-hand corner there. That's jim@stickleyinstitute.com. That is my real email. I don't have any special hidden email that I give to other people. That's the only email I have. If you have questions or concerns when this thing's over, if you email me, I will reply to every email I receive. I sometimes take a little bit of time. Sometimes I get a lot of emails in, so it might take me a day or two to get back to you. But I will reply to everybody that's out there. And at this point, I'll be happy to take, I don't know if anybody has questions right now. If you do, you can write them in, I guess there's a chat box somewhere on your computer. I'll let Heather kind of tell you, and then she can read off any questions that you guys have. So if you have a question or two right now, feel free to write it in, and we'll answer those as well. So Heather, hope we can hear you.
Yeah, no.
There you are.
That was an awesome presentation. A lot of great information there, and it's crazy how many scams are out there. Sounds like more and more are being developed daily, especially with the COVID-19 situation. So thank you so much for that information and advice. This is part of our Financial Wellness Wednesdays webinar series that we're presenting every Wednesday. So if you'd like to join more of our presentations, please visit sdccu.com/FWW for more presentation information. And thanks again, Jim. Great presentation. Have a great night,
My pleasure.
everyone.